The story you're about to hear is a senseless and tragic tale of the life and career and death of the actress Peg Entwistle. Peg was born Millicent Lillian Entwistle, February 5, 1908 in Wales, after her parents Robert and Emily had come to visit Emily's parents, although they were living in London at the time. They came to Wales so Emily's mother could deliver the new baby as well as spend time with her daughter and son-in-law. Not long after giving birth, Robert and Emily and their new baby girl headed back to London to their home on West Kensington. When Peg was only 2 years old, her happy home was about to be turned upside down. It's been written in several places that Emily had died when Peg was 2, but the actual fact was, Robert and Emily divorced. Whether it's true or not is anyone's guess, but Robert claimed that Emily had been having an affair with other men. He ended up gaining sole custody of Peg. Although the couple had went through a bitter divorce, they both ended up putting their daughter's needs first and decided to try to get along for her sake. Robert had several family members who helped look after young Peg, but she was also able to go and visit her mother and her grandparents on her mother's side as well and grew up to be a happy kid overall. Little did she know, some major life changes was headed her way. Her uncle Charles Entwistle had gotten heavily into working in theater after falling in love with an American actress named Bertha Jane Ross. He sent Peg's father a telegram telling him he had him some work on Broadway, helping to build sets and working as a stagehand if he wanted it. He did. The young father and his little girl set off to America, which had to have absolutely devastated Emily as well as her parents. It's said that little Peg never saw her mother again. By 1914, Robert married Loretta Ross, who just happened to be the sister of his brother's wife. Peg now had a loving stepmother. Soon, Peg's father had followed his brother into acting and began getting more and more roles. It was a huge influence on Peg's future. Peg worshipped her father and uncle and wanted to be a star, just like them from a very early age. Robert was struggling though to make the kind of living from acting that he felt that his family deserved, so he gave up his dream to open a stationery shop on Madison Avenue. It was a huge success. Peg also had enrolled in St. Agnes Academy, where she began her own debut at being on stage, where she took a part in their production of Peter Pan. Everything was great again, for a while. Tragedy was about to strike twice. April 2, 1921, Peg's stepmother Loretta died, aged 35, after contracting meningitis. It crushed Peg, who was now a teenager. For the last 8 years, Loretta had been the only mother that she had known, and she thought of her as her actual mother. There was a lot more grief to come to Peg though. On November 22 of the following year, her father was hit by a limousine. He survived but died a month later due to a brain hemorrhage just a week before Christmas. He was only 48 years old. In the course of 18 months, poor Peg had become lost both parents and had become an orphan. On his deathbed, Robert wrote out a last will stating that he did not want Peg to return to her mother in the UK. He wanted custody of her and her 2 little brothers Milton and Bobby to go to his brother and his wife Charles and Jane. Peg had already been bitten hard by the acting bug and the excitement of living in the big city and didn't want to return to her mother anyway, so she was glad to be able to live with her aunt and uncle, who were both deeply into the theater, where she'd again someday. Charles and Jane lived in a modest home on Beechwood Drive, in Hollywood, California, where a huge new sign was going up in 1923. The Hollywoodland sign at first wasn't a homage to the town where they lived or its celebrity status. It was a sign advertising the real estate subdivision down below with its namesake. The sign, when it was first built, had 50 feet tall letters with built-in lights that could be seen from the city. The sign would light up in sections, first Holly, then Wood, and then Land. After, it would all light up together as one word. Peg loved it and thought it was absolutely beautiful. The sign, however, was never meant to be a permanent icon or landmark, although it would become famous for more darker reasons, in which you'll learn shortly. Peg refused to attend public schools, and they hired a tutor from the University of California who came to the house where she would complete her lessons. She was far more interested in what her aunt and uncle were doing, theater. By the time she enrolled in acting school, she had over 200 scripts memorized by heart. Acting was in her blood. It's literally all she wanted to do. Peg, who had gotten her stage name from the play Peg of My Heart, which starred Loretta Taylor, got her big break in 1925 at the age of only 17 in Henrik Ibsen's production of The Wild Duck. A future Hollywood legend was in the audience. Betty Davis, who went on to become a Hollywood icon herself, told her mother while watching the play that she wanted to do what Peg Entwistle was doing and wanted to be just like her. Acting roles soon started coming her way on a regular basis. The play Tommy went on for a whopping 232 performances. That same year in 1927, she married fellow actor Robert Keith. Peg was barely 19 years old. It would end in a huge disappointment for her. He forgot to mention that he had been previously married and that he had a son, and he was required to pay child support and alimony. She also reported that he was a drunk who often abused her both mentally and physically, and who had taken a huge amount of the money that she had made while acting. The marriage ended in divorce after only 2 years. In those days, people were far less tolerant than they are today. Now, if you get a divorce, barely anyone shrugs, but in those days, people would shun you and gossip, and you could easily be ostracized from society and people you love. The abuse she endured, the way people had treated her because of the divorce, the death of her parents, and the trouble she was having breaking into the film industry was all starting to add up and take its toll on her. She got her big film break when RKO Studios signed her to a movie contract in the early 30s. Her first film was a movie called 13 Women. She played the role of Hazel Cousins, a woman who kills her husband and goes to prison. When she filmed the movie, she had a supporting role, but it was about 18 minutes of film time, which is a lot for a first-time film star. It could have got her a lot of attention in the film industry and gotten her more roles. However, she learned shortly before release that they had cut all but about 4 minutes of her film time out of the movie to shorten the film. Soon, she got some good news. She was asked to star in a new movie called A Bill of Divorcement with her friend Billy Burke. It was all set. She was about to have her dream come true. She was going to co-star in a major motion picture and become a peer to some of Hollywood's biggest royalty. At the last moment though, after telling everyone about her movie deal, they gave her part to Katharine Hepburn, who had never done a film in her life. It was more than Peg could take. Was it really for no reason though? RKO had put in a lot of work grooming her to be a star, but she had backed out of the Broadway deal for the Mad Hopes. So they had basically blacklisted her. When the producers had heard of her breaking her gentleman's agreement to be in the Mad Hopes, Peg was basically out and Katharine was in. Soon, the offers stopped coming in and RKO had released her from her contract. Peg had heard that her ex-husband had just got married and sold a play he had written and was living it up in high society while she lived with her uncle, penniless. Her ex-husband had owed her a lot of money, but she knew she would never see it. Her personal things from her apartment, such as her furniture, clothing and jewelry, were all taken and sold for past due rent. She felt hopeless and gutted for not being able to establish the life she so wanted for herself. A successful film career. Some who knew her said that it wasn't the film career that was the final straw, but her not being able to return to Broadway and performing on stage. Regardless of her reason, on September 16, 1932, she told her uncle that she was going out to meet some friends and that she would be back shortly. Instead of meeting friends, she made a decision that would turn a temporary problem into a permanent and final solution. She hiked up the mountain hill towards the Hollywood sign. She had already written a suicide note that read, "I am afraid, I am a coward. I am sorry for everything. If I had done this a long time ago, it would have saved a lot of pain." She climbed the sign that overlooked the city. Who knows what was going through her mind in those final moments. She had left her shoes, note which was in her purse, at the base of the sign, and she simply jumped off the 50-foot-tall letter H. 2 days went by before a female hiker found her belongings and looked over the hill to see Peg's body laying below. She called the police. Her uncle came and identified her remains. Her autopsy confirmed that she died due to multiple fractures of her pelvis. She was only 24 years old. In a sad turn of events, RKO Studios had a change of heart and had wanted to offer her a new contract role for a new movie. It had been sent out before her death, but she had no way of knowing. She died before the letter reached her. Her uncle destroyed the letter. He said that had the studio called her instead of writing her, Peg never would have committed suicide. In the end, Peg partially got what she wanted, to be forever famous. It was just in the wrong way and for the wrong reasons. In the early 40s, the letter H that she jumped from collapsed and fell. Many believe it's Peg's ghost that knocked it down, others believe it was due to the decaying state of the sign. Who would believe that Peg's ghost is haunting the area? Turns out, many people do. Her ghost has been reported many times by people from all walks of life. Some people claim that her ghost floated right up to them wearing a 1930s dress before vanishing. Others claim that have seen her reacting her jump from the sign. Is it really a ghost, residual energy, or both? Who knows? The sign has been rebuilt and the last 4 letters have been removed to make it just spell Hollywood. The sign now has a large fence around it and is heavily patrolled, not just for other people thinking about jumping from the iconic sign, but people using it as a way of self-endorsement. In 1992, the band Love, Hate, which was fronted by lead singer Jizzy Pearl, who currently replaced singer Kevin Dubrow in Quiet Riot after his death, was just starting out on his first record, Blackout in the Red Room. Like many other bands of that time, grunge music came in and pretty much killed most bands of that time. With sales declining and his future in music in question, Pearl and his bandmate bassist Skid Row came up with a plan to build a cross and have Pearl get on it and then hoist it up and tie it to the letter Y in the sign to make a statement about being a sacrificial lamb. In their minds, they probably felt that it could gain attention and help them make it. It had the opposite effect. The label was furious and decided to not send them on their planned tour with the legendary Black Sabbath and then finally drop them from their label altogether. It gained national attention because they thought that it was going to be another suicide. In 2017, Lana Del Rey wrote and recorded a song called Lust for Life where she talks about the Peg Entwistle case. There's even a new Netflix series coming out very soon based on the tragic case. If you or anyone you know have been thinking about anything like what Peg did, please don't. Life will have its ups and downs, but it will get better. Nothing in life is permanent, that means your problems too. Talk to a friend or loved one. If you can't, talk to a counselor or a therapist, or there's a hotline you can call. Hang in there. We want to see you around for a long time to come. What do you think? Is her ghost or spirit still hanging around? Have you seen the ghost of Peg Entwistle or any ghost for that matter? We'd love to hear about it in the comments section below. As always, social media links, merch store and all that is in the comments section. Please consider following us. We'd love to have you. We appreciate everyone who checks out our videos and takes the time to like, comment and follow us. Thank you all sincerely, till next time.